Fazza was not the kind of girl people noticed twice. Not because she wasn't beautiful, she was, in a quiet, unannounced way, but because she had mastered the art of becoming invisible. She spoke softly, smiled politely, and carried a world inside her that no one ever asked about. And she had learned not to offer it. Her mornings began the same way every day. A cup of tea growing cold beside her window, sunlight slipping through half-open curtains, and a notebook resting in her lap filled with words she would never show anyone. She didn't write stories. She wrote feelings she didn't know how to live. Fazza believed in love once. Not the loud kind people show on social media. Not the kind that screams promises and fades in weeks. Hers was deeper, quieter, patient. But love, she would later learn, doesn't always arrive on time. The first time she saw him, it wasn't special. No music played. No dramatic pause. No sudden realization. It was just a normal afternoon at the university library. He was sitting across the room, leaning slightly forward, completely absorbed in a book. His sleeves were rolled up, his hair slightly messy, and there was something about the way he focused like the world didn't exist beyond those pages. Fazza noticed him. And then, she looked away. That's how her story always began, with hesitation. Days passed. Then weeks. And somehow, without realizing it, Fazza started noticing patterns. He always came around 2 p.m., sat near the same window. Ordered black coffee. Stayed longer than most people. She didn't know his name. But she knew his routine. And somehow, that felt like knowing him. Her friend Sana noticed first. You look at him a lot, Sana teased one afternoon, nudging her. Fazza immediately looked down at her notebook. I don't. Sana laughed. You don't look at him, you observe him. That's worse. Fazza didn't reply. Because Sana wasn't wrong. There's a dangerous kind of love. The kind that grows silently. Without conversations. Without moments shared. Without the other person even knowing. And Fazza was slowly falling into it. She started writing about him. Not directly. She never used his name because she didn't know it. But in her notebook, he became the boy with quiet storms in his eyes. She wrote about how he held his coffee cup. How he frowned slightly when reading. How he sometimes stared out the window, lost in thoughts she would never understand. And every time she wrote, she felt closer to him. Even though they had never spoken a single word. One day, something changed. The library was unusually crowded. Every seat was taken. Except one. Right across from him. Fazza stood there, frozen, her heart suddenly racing for no reason she could explain. She could walk away. She should walk away. But instead, she sat down. For the first time, they were just a table apart. Close enough to hear the faint turning of his pages. Close enough to notice the small scar near his wrist. Close enough to feel her own heartbeat getting louder. She tried to focus on her book. She couldn't. Then suddenly, "Excuse me." Her breath stopped. She looked up. He was looking at her. Not through her. Not past her. At her. Yes, her voice barely existed. "Is this seat always taken?" he asked, gesturing to the empty chair beside her. Fazza blinked, confused. "No, it's free." "Thanks," he said, pulling the chair and sitting down casually. Just like that, he entered her world. Without knowing he already lived there. That moment lasted only seconds. But for Fazza, it changed everything. After that day, things became different. Not dramatically. Not obviously. But enough. They began sharing the same table more often. Not intentionally, at least, that's what she told herself. Sometimes he would nod in acknowledgement. Sometimes he wouldn't. And sometimes, just sometimes, their eyes would meet for a second longer than usual. Those seconds became her favorite part of the day. Weeks passed like this. And still. No conversation. No introductions. No names. Just silence. But it wasn't empty. It was full of things left unsaid. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in fading gold, Fazza gathered the courage she didn't know she had. She closed her notebook, looked at him, and said, "Do you always read this much?" Her voice trembled. But she said it. He looked up, slightly surprised. Then, he smiled. And that smile. It was simple. But it felt like something she would remember forever. "Only when I'm trying to avoid thinking," he replied. Fazza frowned slightly. "Does it work?" He paused. Then shook his head. "Not really." That was their first conversation. Short. Simple. But real. And for Fazza, it felt like the beginning of something. They started talking after that. Slowly. Carefully. Like two strangers learning the language of each other's silence. She learned his name. Ayan. He learned hers. And for the first time, someone said Fazza like it meant something. They talked about books. About life. About dreams they weren't sure they believed in anymore. Ayan wasn't overly expressive. He didn't try to impress. He didn't say things just to fill the silence. But when he spoke, it mattered. And Fazza listened. Like every word was something she had been waiting to hear. Days turned into something softer. Warmer. Easier. She started smiling more. Writing less. Because for once, she was living the story instead of just writing it. But love, doesn't always grow in perfect timing. One day, as they sat by the window, Ayan looked unusually distant. Fazza noticed immediately. "You're quiet today," she said. He didn't respond right away. Then finally, "I might be leaving." The words hit her like something she wasn't ready to feel. "Leaving?" she whispered. "Yeah, maybe next month. Got an offer in another city." Fazza felt something inside her shift. Break. But she smiled anyway. "That's good." He nodded. "Yeah." Silence followed, but this time, it wasn't comfortable. That night, Fazza wrote again. Not about his eyes. Not about his smile. But about fear. The kind that comes when you realize you're about to lose something you never even had the courage to hold. She wanted to tell him. She really did. Every day after that felt like a countdown. Every conversation felt heavier. Every smile felt like it was hiding something. But she didn't say anything. Because Fazza had always been like this. She loved deeply. But silently. The day came faster than she expected. His last day at the library. He stood there, holding his bag, looking almost unsure. "It was nice knowing you, Fazza," he said. Nice. That word hurt more than it should have. "You too," she replied, forcing a smile. There were so many things she wanted to say. "Stay. Don't go. I'll miss you." But none of them came out. Instead, she said nothing. And he left. Just like that. Her story ended, before it ever truly began. That night, Fazza opened her notebook one last time. And for the first time, she wrote his name. Not as a character, but as someone she had lost. Because sometimes, love doesn't fail. Timing does. And Fazza, she didn't lose him because he didn't care. She lost him, because she loved too late. Years don't always change people. But they change what people become. Fazza was no longer the girl who sat quietly in corners, hiding her heart behind unfinished sentences. Life had moved forward. Or at least, it looked like it had. She had graduated, started working, built routines, learned how to laugh without meaning it, and most importantly, learned how to live without expecting anything. But some things never leave. Like a name you once whispered only in your thoughts. Ayan. She hadn't written about him in years. Not because she forgot. But because remembering hurt less when it stayed unspoken. One evening, the sky was painted in soft shades of orange and fading blue, the kind of evening that reminded her of the library window where everything had once begun. She was at a small cafe, sitting alone, her coffee untouched. Lost in thought. Lost in nothing. "Do you always let your coffee get cold?" The voice was familiar. Too familiar. Her fingers froze around a cup. Her heartbeat didn't just race, it stopped. Slowly, she looked up. And there he was. Ayan. Time didn't rewind. It didn't soften the moment. It hit her all at once. He looked older. Sharper. A little more tired. But his eyes. They were the same. Still holding quiet storms. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Because some silences are louder than words. You disappeared, Fazza finally said, her voice steady but only just. Ayan smiled faintly. I could say the same. She looked away. I stayed. He paused. Not where I expected. They sat together. Again. After years. Like strangers who knew too much about each other. The conversation came slowly at first. Careful. Measured. Like both of them were afraid to touch something fragile. What are you doing now? He asked. Working. Living. Surviving, she replied lightly. He chuckled. You always spoke in layers. And you always avoided answers, she shot back. For a second. It felt like before. But life had happened in between. And it doesn't disappear just because people meet again. Are you happy? Ayan asked suddenly. Fazza didn't answer immediately. Then she smiled. Yes. It was a practiced smile. The kind people use when the truth is complicated. And you? She asked. Ayan leaned back slightly. Trying to be. Trying. Not am. There was something unsaid sitting between them. Something old. Something unfinished. Why did you come back? Fazza finally asked. He hesitated. Then said quietly. I wanted to see if some things still feel the same. Her heart betrayed her. Because they did. Days turned into meetings. Meetings turned into something familiar. Dangerously familiar. They started seeing each other again. Coffee, long walks, quiet talks. Like they were continuing a story paused in the middle. But this time, Fazza wasn't the same girl.